I don't care what any of your IG business gurus say, right? Yo, stop borrowing when you have no business. You have to have a business to service the debt. Some of you guys are getting $200,000, $300,000 of business credit and you have no business. You're not making any income. You have no customers. You have no clients. Your entire business is predicated on just getting business credit, and that's trash. What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the Buy the Hood podcast or webcast, because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy, and as usual, we start off every show with gratitude. Just want to say thank you to anyone and everyone who supports what we got going on. My partner in crime, Corey, is with me. Corey, what's up, good brother?
It's really good, man. Every day's a good day, so let's go get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, this is our Wednesday podcast, our main podcast. And as you guys know, if you've been listening, and a lot of you have come back and started listening, and I want to say thank you. Special shout out to anybody who's in Buy the Hood University, all the members of our MDC Strategy private group, all the youth from the Buy the Hood ownership camp. Just want to send a shout out to everybody. But special shout out to everybody who's come back and has been listening to the podcast and all the feedback we got on a new format. We got a lot of great feedback on that, and that's appreciated. So this episode, though, is going to be a very interesting episode, right? Because we're going to talk about household debt and credit card debt, right? Interesting topic, but it's interesting times that we're living in. I mean, there's all kinds of topics to talk about in the world of finance, but I think this is a very important topic for a lot of reasons. So let's get right into it, man. Let me read this article. As a matter of fact, let me share this article or this study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So for those who are listening on the audio podcast, I'll read out what it says. For those watching, it'll be on the screen. But it's from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, Center for Microeconomic Data, right? And it's from quarter four, which is last quarter of 2022. It said household debt rises to $16.9 trillion. Credit cards pass pre-pandemic high. So the total household debt rose by $394 billion or 2.4% to $16.9 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2022. According to the latest quarterly report on household debt and credit card balances increased by $61 billion to reach $986 billion, surpassing the pre-pandemic high of $927 billion. Mortgage balances rose to $11.92 trillion. Auto loan balances, $1.55 trillion. Student loan balances, $1.6 trillion. The share of current debt transitioning into delinquency increased for nearly all debt types. Now, what's interesting about this is I saw a couple posts on social media that say that the credit card debt has actually crossed $1 trillion as of March, which will be the first quarter of 2023. I didn't see that on any official report from the Federal Reserve Bank, any of the Federal Reserve banks, but that wouldn't be shocking to me nonetheless. Corey, anything shocking about just the pure amount of debt that American households are carrying at this time?
No, according to my IG feed, you can get $50,000 just for showing up at a bank. So,
yeah, see, so this this is why I want to have this conversation, right? It's for a lot of reasons, right? So, matter of fact, let me say this real quick, right? I don't care what any of your IG business gurus say, right? Yo, stop borrowing when you have no business. You have to have a business to service the debt. Some of you guys are getting $200,000, $300,000 of business credit and you have no business. You're not making any income. You have no customers. You have no clients. Your entire business is predicated on just getting business credit, and that's trash. All right. Now that I got that out the way, Corey, I want to say this, right? Now that I got that out the way, let me say this, right? That's one of the reasons this is an important conversation, because it is not to say that we don't understand the difference between consumer debt and leverage, because you can make the argument those are two different things, right? I totally understand that. Another thing I see online, and every time I put up a post clowning people, not necessarily clowning, but it's joking about credit card debt, the first thing I see is, and this is no shot at anybody because it happens every time, I pay my balances in full every month, right? So somebody's lying, because according to the data, that's not happening, right? That's not happening. But people are telling me that they pay their balances off every month. Everybody's telling me that's what they do. Data shows otherwise.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, listen, man, 90% of the country ain't paying their bills in full. Like, let's keep it a thou wow. And that is not going to get better because everything costs more. So you telling me everything costs more, but everybody is in a better financial situation? Like, that don't even, like, think about how that sounds. It just sounds stupid. You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds dumb.
Now,
So
CNBC put out an article, right? It said credit card debt is at an all-time high, putting households near a breaking point, right? And what they say that it's a study that was done from Wallet Hub. It says that there's a certain breaking point where people just won't be able to pay their bills, and we're getting close to that. It's based on inflation, the fact that things are costing more, and people are going to their credit cards. I mean, not nobody on my timeline because y'all all pay your cards off every month, but everybody else is
man.
you know, so delinquencies are something that everybody is watching because we're getting close to a breaking point.
I'm not gonna call nobody fugazi because that's not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll let the numbers show. The number shows that 90% of American households are not paying their credit card debt on time. So if you're in that 10%, I'm not talking to you. For those people that's in that 90%, which is 90% of Americans, stop using debt to buy things that are not assets, right? And I'm not telling you this because, you know, I'm trying to be your guru or but my thing is this, man, like compound interest work both ways. Compound interest work both ways. Either you making it or you paying it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the point where you got that kind of credit card debt, you paying it. When you look at our system and how it's predicated and how it's built, the reason why so many people are burnt out and tired and can't do what they need to do is because of compound interest and debt, either through student loans or credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can live out here, but with the cost of things going up, people are trying to maintain a lifestyle to go with with the rising cost of things. And this is not me pooping on those people, it's me telling them, maybe you might not be able to maintain that lifestyle. You know what I mean?
So,
like,
yeah. So we want to make sure that, and I'm joking when I say what I say, but I'm also telling the truth, right? But it's never to judge anyone or demean anyone because that's not what we do. We don't do that. But at the end of the day, it is to make people aware of some of the decisions that people are making in terms of credit. And a lot of times it's because you've been hoodwinked and led astray.
Bamboozled.
Because people make it seem as though you can just go out there and borrow money and you don't have to pay it back. That's the craziest part about this, is like people act like you don't have to pay it back. And even as it pertains to real estate, right? So everyone knows that I'm a real estate guy. It always doesn't make sense to borrow. I was having a great conversation with our brother Akil Parker the other day, and he was asking me about he was asking me certain real estate questions, and he was sending me like certain videos of people saying different things about their deals, and I'm like, well, all of this is math. At the end of the day, it's all math, right? It's math in terms of being able to figure out what the rents are. It's math in terms of being able to figure out what your expenses are, depending upon whether they're fixed or variable. Your rate of return. All of these things are just mathematical formulas, and a lot of times that part isn't talked about. Like we get sensationalized when you go on social media.
Yeah.
You just go borrow from this bank and then you go do this, but the things they're saying you just do this is not that simple. Everything always comes back to math, right? And I'm not saying this from a standpoint of someone that's perfect. I've messed up my credit in my life terribly, and I've told this story several times about going to college and getting credit cards and ruining my credit. I had to bounce back from that. But the thing is, because I made those mistakes, when I bounce back now, I protect it because I understand the power of not having credit card debt and the power of having good credit and being able to pay cheaper for things, right? So I also want to be solutions based. So if someone is actually struggling with their credit card debt, and no, I'm not getting ready to sell you a credit course, what I'm going to say is just a couple ideas in terms of how you may be able to handle that, right? So one would be the snowball method, where you get all your debt, right? You figure out what all your debt is, you line it up, and you pay the lowest balance first. Some people don't like that method because they feel as though you should attack the one with the highest interest first. I prefer the snowball method from The standpoint of when you get rid of that smaller balance is something that it does to you mentally. That's how I got out of the debt that I was in, was using the snowball method, because it absolutely snowballs, right? Another thing, and it's something that I'm actually doing now. So I'm actually carrying a credit card balance right now, but it's at 0%. So I had a building that only owed, a small amount of money, small five figures on it, and I get credit card offers all the time for 0%. I literally rolled it into a credit card, so paid the building off, and now I'm finishing making the payments on 0%. But you can use 0% credit card offers if you have a certain level of good credit to pay off the ones with higher balances. But the thing I'll say is this, right? A lot of times when our day to day and we're having conversations and we're on social media and we're talking to people in the business, everyone always talks about using credit to leverage and to scale up and to scale up and to scale up. And from experience, again, this is not judging anyone because I've made every mistake there is to make. If someone tells you that they have $50 million in real estate, right? That sounds great. Ask them how much debt they have, right?
How much?
Because if you got $50 million in real estate, right, but you got $49.9 million in debt,
you got $100,000 in real estate because you only got $100,000 in real estate.
So when people start to talk about their doors and the value of their real estate, ask them how much debt they got, right? Because
if that debt is being 100% serviced, that means maybe if that debt is being 100% serviced,
even still, right? If your debt is being 100% serviced, it only take but a couple things for your entire castle.
Oh, listen, they living dangerously, but I'm not going. You know better than I do, because my real estate journey looked way different than yours. But like when you got a lot of debt to service, it's like companies with a lot of debt to service. When you got a lot of debt to service, if anything shifting, if the wind blow the wrong way, you in trouble. You got to be very, 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 very careful with how you servicing your debt.
Yeah, man.
What ratio? Like debt to income ratio is a thing, and it's not just a thing when you're trying to get the loans. It's a thing once you already have them. Like how much does it cost you per door to service that debt?
Yeah.
You gotta really be careful out here about how you servicing your debt. You gotta be super, super careful, right? Because what I don't want people to do is get discouraged, right? Don't be discouraged. Be careful. Don't be discouraged. Be careful, right? Do what Jim said. Being solutions oriented. Make sure that you are servicing your debt, right? Like I'm getting credit card offers for the first time in my life, and it's because I'm around people that's that helped me along my journey, and because I actually got a job for the first time in my life. This is not the army. I got an actual 9-to-5 job. So for most people who know me, they know that I worked as a contractor in a lot of different businesses, and as a consultant for like the last 15 years. I actually work. I got a 1040 instead of a 1099. I'm actually getting a 1040. This is my first year getting a 1040, and Jesus, God knows how long, probably 15 years.
Yeah,
that's probably why I'm getting the credit card offers out the wazoo. Like they're just all over the place. I'm getting like 4 a day. And
that's the way it is.
You know what I mean?
They gotta put money on the street too, right? So that's the other thing.
For sure. But the thing is, again, I have you for me personally, the reason why I struggle with credit is because I don't want it at all. Like I came up from a space where if I can't afford it twice, then I can't afford it. But
understood.
But the other thing about it is I realized that my ability to scale is being I guess
even outside of scaling, one of the good things about having good credit is you just literally pay less for everything. Every insurance you pay less for.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because again,
my credit is not bad. It's
something that we tell the kids when we teach the kids, right? regardless of whether this system is right or wrong, we don't argue whether
it's the
it's right or
system.
wrong.
It's the system that
It's the system
exists.
that we have, right? And when someone looks at your credit, what they're looking at is your trustworthiness. Not saying that's accurate, because there's a lot of things that can happen in life, but that's what they're saying. They're looking at your trustworthiness.
No, for sure. They're looking at your money trustworthiness. Now, like I said, my credit isn't bad. It's almost non-existent. Like I have mortgage credit, that all of those things that go on my credit. So my credit is pretty good. I just don't have a lot of credit card debt. I have a car note. I got mortgage payments. I got, stuff that I did with banks and stuff like that. Oh, I got that kind of stuff. Like I have very, very little credit card debt. And that's
but I mean, you'll still have a credit card credit score without credit card debt.
My credit score is pretty decent. It's just that I don't have lots of credit card debt. I don't have I don't have the liquidity.
But here's the thing, right? So I just think this is an interesting conversation because of all the stuff that you see online about just everybody's telling you to borrow. And there's not really a lot of got to be careful, and there's not a lot of context to that. So I wanted to have this conversation on the podcast. And there's a brother. I'm trying to think it's a brother. I know I read his book, and that's how I came across him. He had a good book. His name is like Jerem Pearson Lynn. Brass Knuckle Finance is his brand. He's one of my favorite followers on social media because like everything that everybody says, he's kind of like on the other side. And one of his like mottos or slogans is build wealth, not credit, right? And I think that's dope because most of the time people are talking about these businesses that have scale, but they're all predicated on OPM, right? And again, I'm not against OPM, but it's context to it. You don't want to build up
because I know a house of cards. Some multi-billion dollar, multi-million dollar portfolios that pay out, pretty decent, using OPM, but they always scale it at it's like literally that, like they scale it like they pay off a certain amount of the houses and they pay off, things.
Listen, I just want to say this. I was around for 08. I was around for 01. I've been investing literally since the late 90s. And in 08, I know a lot of people that got hurt. I had people that were mentors of mine who came close to literally taking their lives because of houses of cards that they built. I personally got lucky. It wasn't that I was smart, got lucky, and didn't really get hurt in that. But I know a lot of folks that did get hurt. So I've always kind of been conservative. Me and Corey talk about this all the time. Like I'm way more conservative than probably everybody in our team is. Like I'm just way more conservative. But it comes from experience and understanding that there's nothing wrong with building things slow over time. Now, with that being said, one of the things that was told to me as a kid that I now recognize as BS that my family told me just living in the hood, not knowing any better is credit cards are for emergencies. All right, there's context to that too, right? If it's a life or death situation and you have no other way of and you need capital, I understand that. But I've seen people say credit cards are for emergencies and like, yo, I need a new pair of sneaks because I'm about to go such and such. It's an emergency. I don't have the cash yet. Y'all gotta chill with that, right? A lot of money habits that I was told. And matter of fact, we could make that our own show. Like some of the dumbest things we were told, right? Some of the cliches we were told in the hood. Credit cards are for emergencies. The number one is you gotta treat yourself. What does that actually mean? Right?
Treat yourself to what? Which version of yourself? See, this is what I ask this is what I have to ask people when they say they gotta treat yourself. What version of yourself? What version of you? Are you treating today's version of you, or you treating the version of you 5 years from now that's gonna pay for what you're doing right now? Man, and when I ask people that question, I'm treating today's version. Sweet. I mind my business. As long as you know that the version of you 5 years from now was paying for like what you do 5 years from, what you're gonna be doing 5 years from now was based on the decisions you make today.
Yeah.
So when you're treating yourself, what version of yourself are you treating? And that's fine. If you don't care about the version of yourself 5 years, I may not live another 5 years. Cool. I lived that life. I'm not judging you because I lived that life. 5 years from now, I might not live 5 years. And I lived that life for a very, very, very long time until somebody asked me that question. Mm-hmm. And then that question changed everything about how I was like, are you what are you planning for in your life? Like, what have you ever done to plan for you 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now? Like, what have you done to take care of that person? Because as you get older, things get a lot harder. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be the version. You got to start taking care of the older version of you. Like
right now.
People say nobody's taking care of me in my old age. You didn't take care of you in your old age when you were younger. The person who should be taking the most care of you in your old age is the younger you.
Hey, listen, man. World-renowned poet Sean Jacobs, better known as Sheik Luch, once said, "You got to plan for the future because you figure you're gonna be older way longer than you're gonna be younger."
Yeah.
So I took those words to heart.
Bars.
I live my life off Locks bars. I took those words to heart. So I understand that the decisions I make now, I'm going to have to deal with in the future, right? But that's just a couple of the lines that we were told. That's all BS. You know what I mean? The credit is for emergencies. You got to treat yourself. Give me one more quote. What's something else that you heard that's BS? You can't take it with you. How about that one? Spend it all because you can't take it with you.
You can't take it with you.
Right. That's selfish behavior to say that though.
That's the you can't take it with you, and that you should always remain. You should always keep your money out. Like, I grew up in an old Southern Baptist family.
Don't trust banks. Don't trust banks.
Money out the bank. Yo, listen, when you met me, Jim, I did not have a personal banking account. I had business accounts, so I was not unbanked, but I did not have a personal, because I didn't want a personal relationship with the banks. I had zero personal relationship with banks. Banks are for business. I don't have a personal relationship with any bank. And now that I realized that what I did to myself is I did myself a lot of disservices with a lot of the things that I believed. I still believe those things. I just believe it in a different, I understand the context better now that I've been in this finance space for over the last 10 years.
All right, so here's the thing, right? Understanding, so I'm not really knocking our elders or anyone that taught us this, because they teach you what they know. They don't have all the information. Now we have access to more information.
They had firsthand experience too. So that's the difference between hearing it from somebody who has theory, and then somebody who has firsthand experience. Like, those people had firsthand experience with that. So when they tell you that, you kind of take it to heart a little different, because I was taking this advice from my elders, 60 and 70-year-old people when I when I was a kid in the 1970s and 80s. So what I mean, I'm dating myself.
You make yourself sound real old, because you was only but like 2 years old in the 70s. Like, it wasn't like you was 10 years old in the 70s.
I mean, but listening to my old heads, they was like, look, man, the system is weird and rigged, and it was crazy.
Here's the thing though, is not getting on them any conspiracy theory. It's not that stuff's not true, but you have to learn to work within, right? Unless you're just going to go completely revolutionary and work outside of it, but then understand what comes with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because what I find is people say they're completely outside of that, but they don't want to live with the consequences of being that way, right? And also, when you study historically, right, and for those who aren't familiar with the Freedmen's Bank, do your Googles on the Freedmen's Bank. I'm probably going to review the book about the Freedmen's Bank, and my book review is coming up shortly, but when you read about the Freedmen's Bank, you understand how that past trauma was passed down to generation after generation, not to trust the banking system, not to trust any system. But it also
the Freedmen's Bank dirty.
But it also puts us behind. It kind of puts us behind too. So having that kind of understanding. But a lot of the information that we were told is just not true, but is what we were told, unfortunately. You know what I mean? That's a couple of them. I'm going to say that we could do a whole show on, it's almost like lies my teacher told me. It's going to be like lies the hood told me in reference to money. We're going to make that a whole show. Lies the hood told me. Right?
You're kind of doing it now. Like,
I know. That's why I said I'm going to stop with that. Let's get back to, before we get out of here, let's tie things up, man. I want people just to be careful with credit, right? And I understand that a lot of people are struggling right now. You can't afford basic things, but I just want you to be careful with the credit, and also just do your due diligence as you follow these business credit gurus. Because some business credit, and I know some of them personally, and their entire business is getting business credit. You ask them how they service it. They service it by getting more business credit. They don't have a cash flowing business. And the last thing I want to say is it's okay with building something slow. Don't be in a rush. Run your own race. Don't be in a rush, but you want to make sure your foundation is stable because when you go through tough economic times like where you're not necessarily facing now, but I think it's going to get a lot worse, you'll see those that aren't over leveraged are going to be living a completely different than those that are. And I also notice right now, right, some of the quote unquote business credit and real estate gurus, they are already setting up. They're already setting up their next play. I see some of them that went to the church. I see some of them are anti-credit. Like there's a lot of things I see going on. I'm like, okay, I see what this is. Me and Malik were talking, and he was like, yo, he said such and such is setting up to get out of the real estate game. I'm like, you know, this is I've seen this happen already. After '08, a lot of dudes that was like, you know, selling dreams got into the church. I see the church happening now. You're going to see a bunch of your favorite gurus become pastors. You know, it is what it is, man. But my thing is just please be careful. Please look at the data. Don't fall for the okie doke. The data is out there, and data shows that people aren't paying off their credit cards. People are struggling with debt. I mean, that's just what it says. Corey, you got any last words about credit card debt and people protecting themselves, bro?
Just be careful. Like, just be careful. I'm not going, you know, there's people out here that aren't purposely trying to mislead you, but you're going to get yourself hurt following behind them because you don't have their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the wherewithal that they do. So you got to be super, super careful. Like, they can walk you through the whole process step by step, and you still going to end up getting hurt. Because that's not your bag. You know what I mean? Like, it's not what you get into, and what you end up is with a snowball of revolving debt that you can't pay.
And I do want to say this before we get out of here, that anything we said on this show is not investment advice. We are not your financial advisors. So educational, informational purposes only. But if you do need help, and if you're struggling with something with credit card debt or whatever, and you just, you know, want to ask a question or you need somebody to talk to,
get at him because he know about credit. Get at my
and it's not. I'm just, and the reason I say this, bro, is because I read a lot.
No, you're way more conservative.
No, but here, listen to what I'm saying.
In this realm, I'm way more conservative than you are. But
no, but hear me out when it comes. What I'm trying to say though, I'm talking about people that are really out here struggling. Like, reach out if you need someone to talk to, whatever. Because I read a lot, and I'm seeing brothers and sisters literally take their lives over this stuff, and it's never that serious, right? So, and I mean this, like I'm saying this because I've read this. If you just need someone to talk to about whatever you got going on, need some kind of help or whatever, reach out. You can shoot us an email, inbox us, because it's never that serious. And if I can help anybody, I just want to put that out there because literally I'm reading stories about people like I just can't take it anymore, and just like, you know what I mean? And I just want to make sure that I'm a resource to our community for folks that actually may need this, just to talk to somebody. I'm not offering loans. Don't get me wrong. I'm not offering loans, but what I am saying is I'm here to help, here to serve. So reach out to us. All of our information will be in the show notes as well as the information box if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook. For those that rock with us, man, we definitely appreciate you. Make sure you share this episode. Give us your feedback. What do you think about what's going on in the world in terms of credit? All the business credit gurus, everybody borrowing out the wazoo. Give us your thoughts, your concerns, your feelings, and let us know how you have dealt with credit card debt in the past, if you have, or how you avoid it. You know what I mean? Give us those tips too, because we want to make sure that we share with our folks. Every Friday, we're on live. We do a Bitcoin giveaway. We give away Bitcoin every Friday, and we talk to the folks. So make sure you join us on our live. Every Wednesday, we're dropping our pods right here. If you're listening on audio, salute to you. You still can share it though. Show us some love. But listen, man, we love and appreciate you, man. Courtney, any last words?
Be good to each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Listen,
be good to you now and the future you also.
Excellent point, bro. And as we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates. We'll see you guys in our next episode. Peace.